our 7th WIZO Zoom event. WIZO, Women's International Zionist Organization, is Israel's leading organization for education and social services and promotes equal society. WIZO is the biggest Zionist women organization with 250 volunteering members worldwide. Our aim is to raise money for children and women in Israel. Please help children and their families to enjoy Pesach with enough food at their homes. A package with the essential food for the Seder and the holidays costs €100 or $100. Please donate to support and help the children and women in Israel. In honor of the International Women's Day, WIZO Austria invited 3 strong women voices of Israel to speak to us today. On a very short notice, we learned that unfortunately Fleur had a family emergency and is not going to be with us today. She was so kind to record her speech. My name is Karin Meyer-Winter. I'm the president of WIZO Austria, and I want to thank Caroline Sklarik-Selman, chairperson of WIZO Austria, and Petra Ackermann-Winkelbauer, chairperson Aviv WIZO Austria, for organizing this wonderful event. A special welcome to His Excellency, Mr. Mordechai Rothgold, Ambassador of the State of Israel in Austria, and his wife Celine. To Esther Moore, World WIZO's president, all the board members of World WIZO in our audience. We are also honored by the presence of many WIZO presidents and from Chavarot around the world. Even though this ongoing pandemic doesn't have too many benefits, it does give us the opportunity to truly be an international organization. These Zoom events have been crossing borders and time zones, and I would like you to share in the chat box where you're joining us today, from where you're joining us today. Before I get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping points. To start, please mute yourself. At any time during the Zoom, you'll have the opportunity to submit the question to today's speakers. To do so, just type your question and to whom it is addressed into the chat. Please also write your name and where you come from. Keep the questions strictly to the topic, as we are a non-partisan organization. As time allows, our guests will answer as many questions as they can during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We will be recording the webinar and will share the link afterwards. Before our lovely ladies start, we have the honor to hear His Excellency, Mr. Mordechai Rothgold, Ambassador of Israel in Austria. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening, Erev Tov, Shalom. I'm very happy to be with you this evening for WIZO Women's Day, and I'm very happy to see that even if it's not so uncommon anymore, to see that men are in minority this evening. And I must say that I appreciate very much WIZO, which is well known and which I came across during my career many times, but I'm very much impressed by what WIZO Vienna is doing in particular. Of course, WIZO has been one of the basic pillars of Zionism and ongoing support of Israel for a century. And I was very impressed by the exhibition about the history of WIZO Austria at the Jewish Museum a few weeks ago. WIZO embodies also women empowerment and gender equality as an essential value of our national revival. And indeed, the place of women in the Zionist movement started very early, and I think we had quite a number of achievements in terms of gender equality before many other countries in Europe, and modern Israel also is continuing in this way. And of course, WIZO is one of the strongest institutions promoting the connection between the diaspora and Israel. So I'm also, of course, very glad to see that you organized this evening with the participation of leading women from Israel, אורה and OSHRA, ערב טוב, שמח להיות איתכם הערב בתור נציג ישראל בווינה, ואתן נציגות ישראל מישראל עצמה. And I'm also particularly happy to see the dynamic activities of WIZO in Vienna at a time where the relations between Israel and Austria are thriving. Bilateral relations between Israel and Austria have known ups and downs in the past, but we are all very happy to see that now we are really at one of the highest point, if not the highest point, of the relations between both our countries. And this came into expression by we could see it very clearly, even in the difficult times in the past year, with the challenges posed by the coronavirus. The cooperation between Israel and Austria continued and continued also specifically in cooperation in coping together with the challenges of the COVID. Chancellor Kurz visited Israel a week ago, and we are very happy to announce today that our President Rivlin, will be visiting Austria next week. I think this is really a very strong sign of the good relations between both of our countries. Having two bilateral highest level visits in 2 weeks is something very extraordinary in the relations between our countries. But relations between countries are not only between the heads of states and the heads of governments, it's also between people. And what you are doing here is basically bring the people together. So I thank you very much. I wish you an interesting and enjoying evening, and looking forward to meet you next time, not only on the screen, but face to face. Erev Tov, Shalom, ve'erev Naim.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Now I'm going to hand over to Jana Hauptmann, Vice President of WIZO Austria, who is going to present our first speaker, OSHRA FRIEDMAN. Please, Jana.
OSHRA, שלום, זה כבוד גדול שאת איתנו. OSHRA, welcome. It's a big pleasure to have you with us tonight. I'm pleased to introduce you to our first speaker, OSHRA FRIEDMAN. OSHRA is an Israeli media personality, entrepreneur, and socialist activist. Appointment as a Deputy Director General of the Authority for the Advancement of the Status of Women. She is the highest ranking position within the Israeli government and its national authorities ever attained for a woman of Ethiopian descent. OSHRA's career is focused on the empowerment of the economically weak population of Israel, like single mothers and college droppers. She is a leading activist of the Ethiopian Israeli community and was selected one of the 50 most important female personalities in Israel. OSHRA, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to see everyone. I even see some familiar faces and loved ones, so pleasure to be here. Women's Day for us, it's every day. We promoting gender equality every single day, so it's a basically daily job for us. We mark the International Women's Day all over the world and remember the struggles of women, equal rights, and the struggles for women for justice, peace, and progress. Women's Day is a summit of annual work that express awareness of status of women in the various fields that have succeeded in excelling, conquering peaks in Israeli society, and shattering the glass ceiling in a variety of fields along with the traditional roles that they continue to be. An important and significant picture must be noted today. But it's also a day when we ask if a woman make up 51% of population, why we don't see them in a high-level rank positions in the government, around the decision makers' tables, government and parliaments. These days also intend to explain that although we have made progress in recent years, there is still a long way to go. The Authority for the Advancement of Status of Women, which I'm proud to present here tonight, works day by day throughout the whole year to bring about the long-awaited change, promoting advocacy and raising the issues of gender equality on the public agenda. We made up with the Medjugorje Committee to form a national plan to combat a phenomenon of sexual harassment in the Israeli society, headed by the director of the authority. The entire ministerial committee for the formulation of national plan for preventing violence in the family, assimilating of gender thinking in the government, ministry and local authorities, gender budget analyze, establishing of database of women experts to promote their rank in senior positions in the public service, government decisions and regulation advancement and more. We women also have an important role to play. We know we do not need to be promoted. We have the ability, the skills, and the knowledge to do that. All it takes is for the opportunity to be given. Director of the Authority of Advancement of Status of Women, Ms. Eva Medjugorje, believes in social justice and that the way to create conscience and change perceptions among the general public is by promoting and making sure that women will be in the high position as a key position in the Israeli society, in the economy, leadership, private sector, judicial system, in the military, in the police, and more. In her vision, she seeks to create social change and enable to future generation to live a country and society where equality is the way of nature, not a case that to be handled. To promote gender equality, we all must work together and separately, men and women, because we know that's the way to create a better future. I'm glad to be here and hopefully you're gonna have a very good evening.
Thank you very much, OSHRA, for your very interesting and dynamic speech. And I'm sure our audience will have some questions for you. And now I hand over to Petra, who will present our next speaker.
Thank you, Jana, and good evening, everyone. I send a warm welcome to Fleur HASSAN-NAHOUM, our next speaker. And of course, we are very sorry that she's not with us tonight, but we send her all the best and a lot of blessings to her and her family. I'm now going to present you a little bit Fleur. She was born in Gibraltar and studied law at King's College London and immigrated to Israel in 2001. She worked there for an NGO named Tikva, Hope in Hebrew, that saved abandoned and abused Jewish children from former Soviet Union. She also set up her own consulting business in 2011 and advised large corporations and other NGOs in their communication strategies. Fleur was elected to the City Council of Jerusalem in 2016. And 2 years later, she was appointed deputy mayor for foreign relations, economic development, and tourism. She is very much engaged in the fight for a pluralistic city of Jerusalem. And now we're going to show you the video she sent us from her speech. Please, Caroline.
Jerusalem, my city, and in the work that WIZO does all over the country and also all over the world. It was International Women's Day a couple of days ago. It's International Women's Week and month. And, you know, I always speak about, when we talk about the establishment of the State of Israel, a lot of people like to talk about the founding fathers of the State of Israel. And I say, hang on a minute, what about the founding mothers of the State of Israel? The founding mothers of the State of Israel were the founders of WIZO. There were the Rebecca Safes and the Vera Weizmans, and the ladies who came to Israel and saw what was going on with people. What was going on in Israel was that there was terrible public health crisis, terrible poverty. And whilst the male leadership was busy making diplomatic advancements, which of course were crucial for the establishment of the State of Israel, the women, the mothers of Zionism, were actually taking care of what was going on with the people. And so the ladies who established Hadassah, the ladies who established WIZO, they had the vision and the clarity and their ears on the ground to understand that when you have a state, the first thing you need to do is take care of its people. And if there are babies dying, and if there are people in with terrible illnesses and no hospitals and no health system, then you don't have a state. And this is why when people talk to me about the fathers of Zionism, I always say the mothers of Zionism are in charge of the modern social welfare system of the State of Israel, of the health system of the State of Israel. And this is something that as women, as Zionists, and of course as WIZO members, you can be very, very proud, because we are standing in the shoulders of those giants. But unfortunately in Israel, the work is not over. We started off as one of the most equality-based, Zionism was an equality-based organization, men and women. I think the first Zionist Congress at the end of the 19th century, 20th century, was the first time women could vote almost anywhere. Women had the right to vote in the first World Zionist Congress. And that is incredible, and that is something we should be so proud of, that the movement that created the State of Israel was a movement that was based on gender equality. So what happened? Where are we? And why are we still talking about this? So I believe that Israel in general is a state of equality for Jews, for Arabs, for men and for women. But we have equality of rights. What we don't have still, and what we're still trying to achieve, is equality of opportunity. And the work that I do is about making sure that all children, all little girls, no matter from where they come from, they have the same opportunities as those little boys. And we still see that there are many challenges, and this is part of the work that I do with gender equality and women leadership in this country. And where have I chosen to focus? So the first thing that I'm extremely active in is the idea of the fact that there are not enough women representatives in our leadership and in our political system. I believe that we live in a very imbalanced world. And the reason why we live in an imbalanced world, an imbalanced society, is because women are not at 50% of decision-making positions. Why that is, we can look back at education, we can look back at what little girls see, role modeling. Once, I'm a mother of 4, I have 2 boys and 2 girls, and one day I was in one of my PTA meetings, the parent-teachers meetings in my children's school, and I'm looking around the classroom, and I look at the walls of the classroom, and I see that we're very patriotic here in Israel. We have a picture of the President of the State of Israel, Ruby Rivlin, a picture of the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu. We have a picture of the Chief of Staff of the Army in the wall. It's a religious school. We have a picture of the Chief Rabbi, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, not to discriminate. And I'm thinking, something is missing on this wall. My little girl is sitting in class, and she's looking at the leadership wall of the State of Israel and doesn't see herself there because there are no women on these walls. And so if little girls are not seeing that they too can be leaders, how do we expect them to say, I'm going to step up to the plate and I want a leadership role in this country? So when I came out, I was very frustrated, and I went to the Ministry of Education and I say to them, well, why don't we have women on walls? You know, there are women in this country who are leading arms of government. They're just as important as the Chief of Staff, just as important as the Chief Rabbi. And why aren't we seeing these women on the walls? So at the time, well, actually, even today, the Chief Justice, the President of the High Court of Israel, is a woman called Esther Chayut. And at the time, she's no longer, the governor of the Bank of Israel was a woman called Karnit Flug. And I didn't want to get into politics, printing a picture of this one and that one, the Ministry of Education said we have to go through this committee and that committee and it's not going to happen. So I said, you know what, I'm taking the law into my own hands. I raised some money. I went out and I laminated pictures in exactly the same format as the school received them from the Ministry of Education. And I put a picture of Esther Hayut, who is the president of the High Court, as I said, and a picture of Karnit Flug, who is who was the governor of this Bank of Israel. And I printed hundreds and hundreds of copies, and I did a social media campaign, and I said, I'm going out to schools. Who would like pictures of women on their walls so that our young girls can have role models that they can look up to? About 220 schools got in touch with me, mainly in Israel, mainly in Jerusalem, of course, but I even had schools in LA and Australia. And I went to as many schools as I could in order to put up these pictures and show these girls that they too should aim the highest level of leadership, highest level of government, and only really then, only when young girls understand that there is a place for them too, will we start seeing equality of representation in political leadership. Today, we're in a situation where in local government, where I am, in my council, there's about 20% women. The average is 18%. We went up from 15%. And on the national level, what we gained in the local level, we lost in the national level. We were almost 30%, and now we're 25%, and the number's going down. And so we have to figure out what is it that we have to do in our education system and beyond that encourages equality of opportunity for young girls to have equal representation in government. And the reason why I think it's so important is not because this is only good for women. You know, equal gender diversity in decision-making is also good for men. You know, one of the most painful situations in this country is the situation of divorced fathers. Divorced fathers of very small children in this country get very, very few rights. I think everybody who looks at what they get will agree that it's actually very unfair for them. And I'm a feminist, but I also believe in equal rights for men and women as a feminist. And so when I see something that is not equal for men, I'm going to fight for that too. And so if there were more women in decision-making positions, I guarantee you it would be better for those men as well as men all around the country for many, many different issues. So that's one thing that I work on and I fight for every day. Another thing which I'm involved in is the discriminatory situation that happens in the Arab community and the ultra-Orthodox community with women, especially with women, because the problems in these societies end up having a gender angle that adversely affects women. In East Jerusalem, which is my constituents also here in Jerusalem, 40% of Jerusalemites are Arabs, and 90% of the students in Arab schools are learning a curriculum that is not the Israeli curriculum for Arab students. It is the Palestinian Authority curriculum, which unfortunately, apart from having a lot of incitement and glorification of martyrdom, which is bringing us further away from peace and not closer to peace, one of the most striking things is that they don't teach Hebrew. And this ends up becoming a gender issue. Why is this not teaching Hebrew a gender issue? Well, I'll explain. When the kids graduate, they're 18, the boys will always go out to work. They'll find work in construction, in delivery, whatever work they find. You need human capital in this, you need a workforce in this city. It's the largest city in the country. The women get married at that point and they start having children, and they never learn Hebrew. The men learn Hebrew when they go out to work, and the women don't go out to work at that point. They stay raising their children, and when they're ready to go out to work in their late 20s, they don't speak a word of the language their city functions in. And so this ends up, this kind of nationalistic reason for this happening ends up becoming gender. And these women, they could be math geniuses, but when you're 28, 29 years old and you grow up in Jerusalem and you want to find a job in Jerusalem and you can't speak the language, you'll end up cleaning hotel rooms or cleaning office buildings. And this is what happens to a lot of women, whether they're smart and talented or they're not. And so something I'm very involved in is the advancement of also Hebrew in the Arab population, but also entrepreneurship of women in the Arab sector. For those women who are not going to go back to school and learn Hebrew, what we want to do is encourage them to open their own micro, small businesses. Because when you give a woman, a loan for a business, she brings back an income for her family. And so I'm very connected to an organization called MATI in East Jerusalem, which is courses in entrepreneurship, courses in the different areas that women want to get into in terms of small businesses, loans, writing business plans, and we have seen a real change. We have really managed to move the needle with women in East Jerusalem through entrepreneurship to make up for the lack of education that they have as a result of the political reality that the Palestinian Authority imposed their educational curriculum on the schools of East Jerusalem. So that's the Arab women. What about the ultra-Orthodox women? So the ultra-Orthodox women, it's very interesting because they are basically the breadwinners. They have the babies, they do the house, they're basically doing everything. Whilst the men are sitting, supposedly studying religious studies, learning Torah as a full-time job, which of course is a phenomenon you only see in the state of Israel. But the women, the ultra-Orthodox women traditionally are taking, similar to the Arab women, very low paid work. With the ultra-Orthodox women, they do kindergarten assistant jobs and such things. And again, you could be a very smart girl, and this is what you kind of end up getting mainstreamed into. So one of the things that we're very busy doing here in Jerusalem is bringing technological subjects to girls in ultra-Orthodox schools, so that these girls, when they graduate from school, they graduate with a technology degree and they can go into engineering, and they end up with really good salaries as opposed to scraping through with minimum wage. And we see a big trend of ultra-Orthodox young women going into high tech and succeeding in high tech. And most recently, I opened, me and a few colleagues saw that even in high tech, there's a difference between men and women, the men getting the higher management jobs and the women not. And so we created a course called Fem Forward to close this gap. And it's a course that I'm very proud had ultra-Orthodox women, Arab women, secular women, religious women, where we provide all sorts of different skills as well as mentorships and human resources consulting for these women to be able to close that gap between being junior managers and senior managers. And so these are the enrichment programs we're doing in the city, both for Arab women, for ultra-Orthodox women, and regular women, encouraging more and more girls to get into technology subjects, because in this country, technology subjects are where the better paid jobs exist. Now, we can look around us and see that there's a lot of work still to do. And in Jerusalem, we're really at the front line of this work because we have the most challenging populations, and they're living in their largest numbers in Jerusalem. So for example, here we have, as I mentioned earlier, 40% Arabs, 25% ultra-Orthodox. These percentages are much higher than the percentages in the country. And so the challenges are bigger here, but also the solutions are, we are going to be creating the solutions from here because the challenges are higher here. And again, women, how a society relates to a woman, the opportunities of women, that's how you measure a society. Because a society with empowered women with equal opportunity is a better society on all statistics that you look for. In health, in education, you empower women, you empower a society, you empower a family. And so the work of WIZO, the work they do, not only to help the marginalized population groups, provide childcare for them so that the women can go out and really push their potential forward, is something that we're very proud of. The fact that WIZO also is the organization where women who are suffering from all different violence at home, we have shelters all around the country, and this is something that, of course, is always the first thing we need to do, is save lives. Once we've saved those lives, then we can empower them to reach their full potential. And so the work of WIZO, of developing women and children in society, is the work of creating a healthier society by putting women at the forefront of that society. So thank you very much. It's really been wonderful being with you, and I wish us all much health and much more strength and development for the future of our country and of our people.
Thank you, Fleur, for this very inspiring and interesting speech. And thank you that you sent us the video so we could meet you. And of course, it would be nicer if you would be present now, but I would say we learned a lot about what you said. And I think it's interesting that you launched this program for the Arab and the ultra-Orthodox population. So probably we would have had a lot of questions about that, but next time, okay? So I pass on now to Caroline. She's going to present to you our next speaker.
Thank you, Petra. This was an inspiring speech indeed. I'm really happy to have our amazing Chorazim, Ora Chorazim, this evening as our third strong female voice of Israel. Ora is the chairperson of WIZO Israel, and she's a member of the World WIZO Executive. About WIZO Israel. WIZO Israel is the Israeli Federation of World WIZO, and it is the country's leader in promoting, defending the rights of women in Israel. WIZO Israel has two main roles. It comprises thousands of volunteers working in 44 centers throughout Israel, operating and volunteering in dozens of educational and social welfare programs, benefiting thousands of women, children, youth, families, and the elderly. WIZO Israel is the movement in Israel. In addition, WIZO Israel operates numerous projects and services in the area of domestic violence, advancement of women, girls at risk, public advocacy, and much more. And now I pass on to Ora Chorazim. Ora, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I'm just trying to share the presentation. Okay. Okay, so we are okay. We're okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so okay, just a minute. I think it's okay. Okay, so shalom and good evening, Austria from Israel, and happy International Women's Day to all of you, my dear friends. I'll start with the, למה זה לא עובר לי slide? Just a minute. Okay. I'll start with, you know, a true story from the White House. One night, President Obama and his wife, Michelle, decided to go to do something out of routine and go for a casual dinner at a restaurant that wasn't too fancy. When they were seated, the owner of the restaurant asked the President's Secret Service if he could please talk to the First Lady in private. They agree, and Michelle had a conversation with the owner. Following this conversation, President Obama asked, Michelle, why was he so interested in talking to you? She mentioned that in her teenage years, he had been madly in love with her. President Obama smiled and said, so, you know, if you had married him, you would now be the owner of this lovely restaurant. But Michel responded, "No, my dear, if I had married him, he would now be the president of the United States." So today we will talk about the power of women and how WIZO empower women in the Israeli society through 2020, along with the Corona crisis. The mandate, as you can see, of WIZO Israel is to stand for women's rights and support women in all anchors of society in every crossroad in their lives. The COVID-19 pandemic and 3 major national lockdowns created a new reality that forced WIZO Israel to respond with plans for several social phenomena. The first one was as Carolyn said, just the dramatic increase in domestic violence. And the second was that almost 70% of unemployed created by the pandemic are women. Israeli Federation operates legal aid centers in 30 WIZO branches throughout Israel. We have online assistance as well as face-to-face support, all staffed with volunteers, legal professionals. The areas of advice include sexual harassment, rights of women at work, and family law. These centers continue to work almost all year round, although the corona. The demand for these services increased enormously. We continue to work, and I'm so proud and so delighted to tell you about a dramatic achievement for WIZO in promoting the rights of Israeli women in the workplace. WIZO Equal Pay for Women and Men bill was passed into law by the Knesset in August 2020. The new law obliged employers to publish an annual report detailing the pay gap between their male and female employees. This transparency will help women achieve fairness, equality in the wages. This bill is a huge milestone in the ongoing struggle to reduce gender gaps in the labor market and to promote equality in all areas of life. The wage gap between men and women in Israel currently stands at 28%. From now on, every employer will think twice before discriminating when it comes to the wages of the male and female employees. As I've mentioned before, there are 2 main areas women suffered dramatically more during the corona. First was the domestic violence, and the second is unemployment. During this year, we had in Israeli market approximately 800,000 unemployed. As you know, we have 9 million people and almost 800 unemployed. Almost 70% of them are women, mainly Jewish, young women, ages 35 up to 54 from the periphery. So we immediately understood that we need to initiate new program to support these ladies. We initiated the Parliament program for mothers with young children who lost their jobs. This program provides a weekly 3 hours meeting with professional guiding, how to find your next job, how to reinvent yourself, self-confidence. And meantime, when they're taking these lectures, our volunteers are babysitting their children. Immediately after the first lockdown, we opened 5 groups. After the second lockdown, we opened 11 groups. And now, after the third closure, we're about to open 18 groups, and we have a huge demand for this program. I believe that the existence of equal, pluralistic, participatory society is the cornerstone of any democracy. Here in the Israeli society, as you heard before, there is an increasing awareness of the problems surrounding the inequality of the status of women and the lack of advancement in society. Lack of representation in political, economic, business and public system, and their presence in senior levels of government, public, and private companies. As we know, 51% of the society, women, has the power to do it. Greater emphasis is given to leadership and social activism and the development of a fourth sector social enterprise, a major force to bring about a better and progressive society in Israel. Therefore, we created the leadership program, empowerment workshop for women, allowing women to acquire practical skills. This is a program for leadership and social enterprise, training for women from all streams of society. This year, we operated this program also for single partnerhood for the first time, which was really interesting and was very successful. We're developing new models for providing a range of services and programs for women of all ages and from all types of background in all WIZO branches. Programs will include emotional treatments, leadership and activism programs, career crisis management, partnerhood and partnership. Another program to empower women is the directorship program. This year, we operated 5 online Zoom courses with almost 150 women. International Women's Day specified in WIZO Israel in 2 days. The first day was a conference with professional lectures of government partners such as National Insurance, Bank of Israel, tax advisors, legal advisors. On the second day, we opened the hotline with all advisors that I have just mentioned, providing personal advice for women. In addition, we established collaboration with 14 Israeli leading companies, and together we opened a job bank with hundreds of jobs, especially for the women. And now for the future, we initiated a program for the development of women cooperatives. This program will be adapted for women from all society, including women in the cycle of violence. During the Corona crisis, Israeli government established experts committee with 30 experts. And guess what? 30 experts, men, not even one single woman. Immediately, we recruited 30 women expertise in various fields, and we created an alternative report how to deal with the crisis. Part of this report, I'm happy to tell you, was adopted by the government. So my dear friends, we have gone a long way fighting for women equality, but still there is a lot of work ahead of us. We are determined and optimistic, and we will reach our goal for equal and better Israeli society, I can assure you. Thank you. I wanted to show you a short video of, if it's okay with you, just to give you the atmosphere of WIZO. Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay. Cross fingers. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Is the movie displaying, Ora?
No, it's not.
It's not displaying, right?
No.
Ora, can you hear us?
What? You don't see it?
No, no,
Oh.
no, it was
Oh,
not.
I'm sorry for that. Okay, I was enjoying it anyway.
Okay.
It's a short and summarizing 100 years of WIZO activities in Israel. So as I said before, WIZO, we are the WIZO volunteers, women. We are determined, and as I said, we are optimistic, and we will reach our goal for equal and better Israeli society, and hopefully all over the world. Thank you so much for your time. Just a minute, I'll stop share.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Aura, for your great presentation and letting us know all the support WIZO Israel gives to the Israeli society. I hope everyone enjoyed the session and received inspiration from these 3 encouraging presentations. Now I hand back to Caroline and she will start the question answer session.
Yes, thank you, Karin. Thank you, Aura. So proud about the work of WIZO Israel, and so proud to see and so happy to see so many strong women. And you were right, there is still so much to do. So now we're going to give you the floor to any question, please. If you are so kind to write your questions in the chat, I'll try to manage that. And please tell me to whom you address the question also. So we have one question here from Michelle Taus. I don't know to whom. Michelle Taus, could you unmute yourself?
Hi. It was to Fleur, but she's not there, so I guess.
Oh,
I can't.
So thank you anyhow. Thank you so much. Okay, is there any other question you want to share with us? Okay.
Yeah, there is a question.
Yes.
Myself. I saw the question. Thank you for this very important question. The job bank was only Monday, so Monday morning. So I can tell you that above 100 women approached this bank of job bank, and you know it's a process. It's not just that they're sending their CV and immediately they get the work. But we definitely got a lot, we received a lot of phone calls as well as CVs from women, and they drop it to the mailbox directly to the companies. But I can assure you that the companies are more open now to and more tolerance and also towards women. So they will give the priority for women for these jobs. You know that according to the law, you cannot publish a job for a man or for a woman. It should be for both sex. So they will definitely give advantage to women.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a question from Petra to OSHRA. Petra, please unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening again, OSHRA. I like your speech very much, and I have a very personal question to you. As we heard in the presentation of your career that you are from Ethiopian descent, and I know that you came with the Operation Moses to Israel, and I would love to hear more about your personal experience you had from that time, or maybe afterwards at school. How did you integrate into the Israeli society?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. I'm not sure you have enough time for tonight, but I would say, yes, I immigrated to Israel when I was 7 with my parents as part of Operation Moses. I do believe that I integrated in the Israeli society quite well, with struggles and challenges, but well. I'm the youngest from 13 kids. I grew up, I went to high school at HASSAN-NAHOUM, and there I also met my husband, which now we have 3 kids, 3 wonderful kids. I'm not objective. And I think that as a woman, as an Ethiopian woman, especially maybe making a point to this event, it's a quite of smashing glass ceiling. It's not even a word. It's even harder than that. But I think as a new immigrant, as a woman, as a mother, as a worker, I think we have to work maybe even 3 times than the others, and make the efforts to prove to everyone that we can get there, and to have to be able to show us a role model to others. And for me, as someone who's working in the public service, I do believe that as much as we see people on that high level rank, we can show to everyone that the hard work was worth it, even though you struggle and you probably sacrifice a lot, but it's still worth it at the end of the day. I live up north and I drive every day 4 hours back and forth to my work in Jerusalem, and trust me, I do it with full motivation, and I'm really delighted to present it for my kids and show them that in a hard work you can get anywhere that you want. That was the very short version.
Okay, thank you very much, OSHRA. I think we have from WIZO Malmö a question to Ora.
Yes, please. What is the question?
No, somebody wrote in my name. I was the one earlier who asked about how many women who got jobs.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So something happened.
I just saw a question now. I didn't, I just saw a question. What was my biggest challenge this year? So I can reply. The biggest challenge for me this year was the women after take care of the women after shelter, because women in the shelters with the children, at least they have roof, they have where to sleep, they have food, they have someone who's taking care of them. But for the women after shelter, they immediately they were fired or just not working, so no salary. So we had to take care of approximately 100 women and almost 300 children in 3 places in Israel. And we raised a lot of donations, and we supported them with all our volunteers because they have no support around them, no family around them. And the challenging thing was to keep them not going back to their violence partner. That was our biggest mission and the biggest challenge this year. And I'm really happy to tell you that we were succeeded in doing that, and we're still working on it. I mean, it's not ended yet.
Yes, it's a long way to go still there. Thank you very much, Ora. I have another question for...
This question was also to OSHRA. The question was to both. It was from Dina. She said to Dina.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
All right. So I can divide my answer to 2. On the professional side, I think our challenge was how we manage all the programs and the efforts on work without having a budget, because as you know, we are in the middle of an election and we don't have the budget of the ministry, and we find out in a certain way to collaborate with different organizations, whether NGOs or any other government offices, in order to see how can we create the change we want to salute. And
I think one of the reasons that it was kind of hard for us to realize that we saw the big picture when COVID-19 started, and we were shouting to everywhere and every person who were able to hear us, especially our CEO, saying that the women and the single mothers and they're going to be the first who are going to be harmed by losing their job, losing their business, having no system of education open, having the kids, they will be the first to release from work, and they will be even the last to recover from the economic crisis. So that's one part that you have to deal with, because you have to bring it into the table where everybody deciding how to divide the budgets that they have and what kind of programs and solutions they will be able to give. And the second thing that is that we also, as mothers and employees, how we figure out and divide our time when our 3 kids are staying home and they don't have a system too. And this whole bunch thing that's going on, I think, all over the world, teach us also to embrace in the value of the goodness of the COVID-19, because if until then I didn't have enough time with my kids and didn't have time enough time to be at home and even sometimes to read books, so now I do. But on the other hand is also the freedom that everybody had, the free to go to work, the freedom to go to school, the freedom to have to meet friends, and to be able to create different programs and ideas that you have been a little bit shut down. And I think this is something that forced us to see the different opportunities outside, and whether we can choose to grab it or, you know, we can stay and complain all about. So I think this is the two things and the two issues that I think made the huge challenge for us.
Thank you very much. OSHRA, I think now we have another question from Rita to Ora. We're changing. Rita, you can
unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hello, good evening. My name is Rita Dauber and I'm the board of WIZO Austria. Actually, my question goes to both of you, Ora and OSHRA. Thank you for your very interesting presentation. There is an ongoing discussion when it comes to supporting women leadership in higher position, whether to introduce the quota or not. And here in Austria, lately they have introduced a law which forces big companies to have a 30% of women in higher position, board of directors. And I wanted to ask you whether there is a similar law in Israel, and what is your position on introducing a quota to both of you? Thank you.
Okay, who wants to start?
Ora, go ahead. No problem.
Okay. Ora?
Do you want to start?
Well, I can say that in my knowledge that we do have several laws and government.
Yeah, okay, I'll start. So in Israel, there is also a quota.
Oh, I think that the internet connection is not so well. Ora, can you hear me?
Okay, can you hear me? Everything's okay with my line?
Yes.
Okay, so in Israel, there is also a quota, and the quota is the in governmental institutions, organizations, that women supposed to be 30% of the board of directors. But to my opinion, I do support this, but I do support it in terms of, first of all, I think that it should be, if to be honest, it should be 51 and then the part of women in the society, but let's say 50-50. But I think that this is something that should be really on terms of skills, because there are lots of Israeli society that can do this job in a very good way and professional way. I have to tell you that there is a project of directors for the governmental companies. And in this program, at the beginning, they start recruiting women and men. And finally, they ended with, they started to recruit people for this program and encourage women to come. So they ended with 200 women and 200 men that has the same, not the same, but skills that fit the needs of the board of directors of governmental companies. And I have to admit that now, when you approach a minister and say, why don't you have enough women in your board of directors? And they used to reply that there aren't enough women because of this program of directors. That side, you know, according to my job and work, I'm just organizing meetings with all the mayors of all the municipalities in Israel. And one of my questions is, do you have 50% of the board of directors of your companies are women? And if he's saying no, I'm replying immediately, because, you know, I'm coming with a prepared answers and offering the bench and the group program of directors in our place is the board of directors, which is really important for me, that women will be in a very high levels as well as men, not only as secretaries or I don't know what.
Okay.
I hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
OSHRA.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to add, I do agree with Oa, because that's the situation in Israel. But lately, and on August, the government
OSHRA, do you want to add something?
Yes, I do. I just want to add that, am I heard okay?
Yes, yes.
Right. I just want to add to what Ora said, because I do agree with the things that she said, and say that on the last August, the government had a new regulation saying that they want to see in senior position staff in each government at least one from 4. Because today it's 45% instead of 50%, but not all the government offices. And one of the things that we learned is that even if any government office wants to hire a woman by her skills and her ability and her talent, not just because she's a woman, that will be the last thing that they need to consider. Of course, that is not a reason to hire someone to that part. What they said is that they don't find women with the same skills in order to hire them. So the government decided that the Authority of Status of Women will establish a database of women with the same data that they need, with the training, education, skills, ability, managing years experience, etc. We thought on January last year that we may have 500 women registered to that database, but until today we have more than 4,000 women and 2,200 women already complete all the paperwork, and they are the one who is getting applications to apply to any position that we find out that is able to afford them. And I have to say that it's not just blaming or accusing or finding the challenges on the different offices and positions, but it also to make sure that we push those women to apply, because sometimes we ask so many questions, even if we have 85% of the ability and the things that require on that position, but still we think once, twice, 3 times, and then maybe we're gonna send our name and CV. And this is something that we also need to work on that, which, you know, when you talk about gender, you don't see that in men, unfortunately, somehow. But for us as a woman, I think this is one of the things that we need to work, and this is one of the tools that we have to give them.
Thank you very much, OSHRA and Ora. I must admit, Ora, that at the very beginning, there was a slight difficulty with the net, but now it's fine. I have another question from Nicole from Germany, President of Germany. Nicole, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Ah,
Hi.
hey. Guten Abend.
Hallo. Tolles Event. Danke, dass wir dabei. Thanks for making us all participate. Thank you. It's great. Oh, shall I put my question personally? Okay. Ora, hi, Motek. Ora, I know about it, but maybe you should mention your tremendous work that you're doing in the safety net.
Nicole. Hello, my dear.
Hi. Long time no see. Ora, can you just mention a little bit about your work at the safety net centers? I think it's very important for this community also to hear about that.
Thank you for the excellent question, dear Nicole. I just wanted to edit that. I thought that, you know, if nobody will ask me about it.
Ora, we cannot hear you. You have to change your location or something.
Anyway, Nicole just...
Yes, Ora?
You cannot hear me?
No.
Now you can hear me?
Now we can hear you very clearly. Yes, thank you.
Ooh. Yeah, let me... Okay, now you can hear me?
Yes, yes, Ora.
Now it's okay?
Yeah, it's
okay. So, okay, perfect. So I just wanted to thank Nicole for this excellent question. First of all, I wanted to tell you that, you know, at the very beginning, when the corona just came to our world, we realized immediately that we're going to suffer from a dramatic increase in violence, in domestic violence. So we start working with the wealth build and to open, gladly we managed to convince them quite immediately. And we on May, the beginning of May 3rd, we opened the emergency shelter in the middle of Israel. And it was a shelter that was fully booked, fully occupied from the very beginning of the and we treated there approximately 340 children, which is a huge number. It's like 4 times as a regular shelter. And the safety net gives the ability to treat them and give them the support for all their needs, and they do have certain needs as a psychologist, legal advices, a lot of them of health service. One of them came to our shelter, and after 4 days she went to abortion, and it was really really terrifying period of time. And as one of the treatment workers there just said, look at them, they're also 24/7 with the violence partner. And now they came to the shelter, and you can see all of they were so sick, just, you know, like the body, you know, just act in a way, just telling them, you know, we suffered so much. So you could see all ear infections, throat infections, all kind. The body was like healing outside. It was really amazing and so difficult to see. And with the safety net program, we supported also the women after shelter. And as we said, this was the major issue for us, the women at the emergency shelter. And I think WIZO was the initiator of this idea. And WIZO was struggling to open it, and WIZO was operating it. And we recruit staff, professional staff, in no time, in days. And thanks God it worked, and it worked so so good. And as I said, we saved life for almost 200 women and 340 children.
Thank you very much. Nicole, are you still there?
Yes, yes, thank you, Aura. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have a question from Marina.
Hi, Marina Heifetz from Vienna. So my question is for OSHRA. It's quite logical that the women support women's cause, but if I would like to know if you have any strategies or programs which encourage men to support women's cause at the first line in traditional patriarchal communities where the most difficulties arise, where the men feel endangered when the women are empowered. If you have any strategies to overcome this attitude and to make the men allies and not our, to make men support us and not oppose us, especially where we depend on them in these traditional communities.
Okay, so I will give you the very short version of answer. So as you introduce, our name of the authority is the Authority of Advancement of Status of Women. Too long, right? But the law is actually give us the right to handle, to empower women and do everything about women, right? Now we are working in order to change the name of the authority so we will be gender equality like in every other country, because we are the only country with that name for now, all right? Once we'll do that, our ability to handle with different groups, women, men, I don't know, you name it, okay? Anything that you can think of, that will give us the ability to expose our activities. That's first. But in our opinion, gender equality is not something that you can achieve without working together, men and women as one, okay? Nobody's depending on each one. It might be we can feel that. But I think in a way, each one of us have something that we can contribute to that relationship and make sure that each one of us will get anywhere he wants by talking, sharing, making the decisions, giving the time, putting the efforts, anything that you can think of. So for now, we are not there yet, but I really hope that once we'll be after a situation that will have a very suitable government, we'll be able to promote that law, and then we'll be able to make some activities around that, and maybe you have a strategy, as you said. Hopefully, I really hold my fingers for a couple of months now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think I have one question. We make one more last question. I think Dina, you want to say something?
Caroline,
Yes. Hello?
Caroline, can I just add something to, yeah, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Yes, you're here.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to add a very short sentence upon, according to my perspective.
We don't listen.
Violence against women, it's not a women problem. It's the society problem. Yeah.
We don't listen. We don't hear you.
It's okay. You hear me?
Not so good, Ora. I'm so sorry.
What do you mean? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, maybe you can move a little bit, maybe some more. Okay, maybe we can go. Dina, do you want to say something? Dina from Austria.
I'm just sitting at the same. No, I'm just sitting in the same place. Okay.
I'm so sorry, Ora. We can't hear you very good.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Maybe we can quickly change.
Now, any chance that you hear me now?
Kaha.
No. Okay.
Ora, turn your video off. Maybe it will work better.
Okay.
No, sometimes it does work.
Oh.
Okay.
Now.
No, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the new Ora. Okay, so I just wanted to add that according to my perspective, the problem of violence against women, domestic violence, it's not a problem of a women. It's men should be part of the solution. Services and treatment for men, and also what we're talking about is having the men, and especially if you saw my presentation, part of you saw it yesterday, we are recruiting the business companies next to us to say it out loud and to raise awarenesses of the violence and to avoid it. So what I'm trying to process, and there is no other way.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ora. Maybe you can put again the camera on so that we can see you. Okay. Karin? Okay, thank you for the great evening tonight. 11 countries were represented. Please don't forget, the aim of WIZO Austria is to help people in need in Israel. We appreciate every donation, no matter how big or small. Please visit our website on www.wizo.at. There you can find details of our bank account and also a donation button. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram and like our posts. Thank you for being with us tonight. We wish you all the best. Please stay healthy, and we all hope to see you soon in Israel, please God. Thank you very much. Thank you, OSHRA and OSHRA. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Karin.
Thank you.
Caroline, thank you very much.
You.
Mine is closed. And good night.
Good night.
Thank you, WIZO Austria, for doing such a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, dear.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So many countries. Wow.
Goodbye, Monica Cher, because I did not see her before. But I see she was in. Okay. Goodbye, Tamar.
Goodbye.